Okay. Remember I said early on in the J world, that you'll be revisiting predisposed issues that may have eliminated you from the running to be something or to do something, that may have had to get treated for whatever reason, may have been some kind of a problem until you decided to do something different. So it's interesting that when I went to go get my driver's license renewed, because it was coming up, it was expiring in February of 2024. So my husband and I went and got our stuff renewed. And I had the worst freaking time trying to read those letters. It was like double vision. And it looked like there was red numbers behind the black numbers. And I've never had that happen before. Maybe I don't remember. I remember flying through the last DMV test, which was in 2020 of February. It was only about 3 years ago that I had the last DMV test. And it was like no issue. I went through, read line number 5 and gave them all the numbers. They're like, okay, great. I go in this time and I swear I had the worst time. And I know the last 3 years has been so aggressive, like literally so aggressive, that it's changed a lot of things in my system. It's changed a lot. And not like it's worse, but anything that was like a demon within, anything that was, what's a demon? Something that eliminated you from something. Like again, when I was in the military and they did those depth perception tests, I didn't pass. I failed that part of the test. So I couldn't be a pilot. Not that I was going for one, but they wanted to test my aptitude and everything. And so, but that never got in the way. I've always passed the DMV test, but they had more of a deeper test of depth perception that even the DMV couldn't catch. Okay, so that was interesting. I don't even remember all the testing in, MEPS, but yeah, you go through a major physical with MEPS. You do everything. It's crazy. And what is MEPS? That is Military Entrance Processing Station. That was actually out in Oakland, California. But anyway, so going to DMV this time, my husband just sitting there watching me just struggle through it. And it wasn't like, she passed me, yeah, because I wasn't like infirm. It was, she put a restriction on my license that I have to get some kind of corrective lenses. So I don't say corrective, but like I could see fine. And sometimes when I'm watching Netflix, like when I go to the home portion of it and I can't read, sometimes I can't read the writing when I'm far away on my bed. I have to go up closer. That's probably the only thing that that I'm just like, why was I able to see that before, but now I can't, And so, yeah, right now we're in 7 years of evolution. We're in the first of the 3, it's like, when you think about it, 2020 or 2019, yeah, 2019, then 2027, yep, 2027, they're going to have 7 years of major deprogramming and reprogramming. And I already did my deprogramming back in 2016 to 2023. Now I'm in the reprogramming stage. It's different for everybody. It's based upon when it all started, whatever that means. And so it's been quite interesting going through the reprogramming stage. Now let me see something real quick. That's why I posted that song about double vision. Because, yeah. All right. Here we go. Okay. So, yeah, family. And so I've been kind of just getting on the family. Why, Jillian? Because we've all been part of this crazy experimentation from way back in the 1930s, 20s, 30s, 40s. I'm sure even before that. But, what we can remember is from what our grandparents' age is, right? And so our grandparents were part of major experiments they didn't even know they were part of. And some of you, it's all relative to what? Grandparents. I mean, for me, it was the greatest generation. That's my grandparents. My parents are the silent gens. And then I used to babysit for people who are the boomers. I babysat for a lot of boomers out there. Worked for a lot of boomers out there. And I'm Gen X. Gen X is a variable. We're in the variable part of the Great Reset, right? X, Twitter, Gen X, disease X, X marks the spot, X this, X that, X-Men, disease X, like I said, okay? And so now who in the family is going to be the X-Men of that family? When you think about 4 people in a family, 2 kids and 2 parents. And so then you have all these different variations and variables of which kid's going to be the strongest. There's always going to be the stronger kid. There might be one that's smarter and more adaptable. They might be smarter intellectually, but physically they're not as adaptable. And you might have someone that's really strong in that family, but intellectually they don't have it up there. And so they cancel each other out. Then you have, so there's that, right? And you'll see that. Then you see maybe people like 6 people in a family, 4 kids and 2 parents. So now you're like, oh shit. So then you have the 2 parents are like opposites attract. And you have the kids, and you think about positive and negative. And let's say the oldest and the second to the youngest get along great because they're more alike than not. And they're not completely repelling each other, opposing each other. And the second oldest to the youngest get along. How does that happen? Well, because when you have siblings that are like you know, right after each other, like you have sibling number 1 and 2, they're fighting for existence, fighting to stay alive, fighting each other, the spiritual fighting within the womb. So you have the first kid that fought was the one that won out. The second kid comes out. Okay, well, they're fighting against that one, and they came out second. Damn it. So there's first and there's second. Then you have the third kid, which basically is the first kid in that second situation. And then you have the fourth kid that is second to that first kid of the third line in that family. And so it's all just, it's interesting. And so family is when fracturing humans is socially acceptable. The woman gets mangled and fractured. What do you mean by that? Because she's taking parts of herself, her ego, alter ego, and then all the different entities that she invites into her world and into her body. They all turn into some kind of demons and spirits of sorts that potentially could torture, turn into cancer, disease, and chronic illness, or turn into a baby. Okay, but in the meantime, all of those offspring, are mutating the body within. And then there's a fight. There's a fight between the parents and the children inside the body, immature cells. That's what the whole histamine and prostaglandins. When you're taking antihistamines and things to disable your prostaglandins and your inflammation to do what it's supposed to do, what happens is then the immature cells, the immature D cells, dendritic cells, then take over, and they're chaotic, not very organized. And they start wreaking havoc. Then they do get organized, turn into a demon baby, right? And so it's quite interesting, the science world and the biological world of what's going on. And then you add in allegory, you add in like the Bible and all the stories from the different scientists of the medieval times, like Dante and other writers of the past, explaining Adam and Eve and explaining paradise lost, paradise found type of thing. And then all the blood wars, and you have the blood types. I mean, so family is when fracturing humans are socially acceptable. The woman gets fractured and mangled, and the children, if it's anybody's guess, if they survive the environment. And they were allowed to thrive and survive on some level before this last great kickoff reset, which was in 2019. So now in this environment, it's like the Olympics between all genetics. It's not like before it was the Olympics between countries, right? We had the Olympics every certain amount of years. I don't know if we're going to have the Olympics anymore. We might, but I don't know if it'll be the same. But yeah, before it was countries that were in competition with each other. It was like, yes, individuals that would go to their city competition of gymnastics or soccer or something. And then you go into like city and then state, the regionals, and then you get up all the way up to then your country level. And then it's the Olympics where you're training every single day. And the Olympians do that, train every single day. And then they go and compete against other countries. Now it's the Olympics between families and friends. Okay? And so in this environment, it's who is going to win, who's going to be the strongest prototype. And so, yeah, every single time you dilute the bloodline, it's when you keep having children, offspring, that keeps diluting the bloodline. How do you mean that dilute it? Makes it weaker. Every single time you reuse, when I make coffee, or let's say espresso, and I do it just one time, the first drip is the strongest drip. The second drip on the same grounds is a little bit weaker. If I were to keep running the water through the same grounds a third or fourth time, it's weaker and weaker and weaker. That's what goes on when people are having children and families, is that every single generation of children, every single brother and sister, because you could have even the same generation have different generations, because it's the body now developing an offspring from that weakened state of existence. The mother is weaker every single time she has a child. And so how much is that kid taking from her? And if she has like so many kids, then she is that much weaker. And so the children, it's anybody's guess if they survive the environment, and people stand by this belief, destroying their daughters and sons' lives, especially in this environment, encouraging them to have children and big families in this environment. Grandmothers who don't give a shit because they want what they want, they don't care about the current situation. All they care about is what they think the future is. They may not even be around, but they want their grandchildren and children and grandchildren to have great-grandchildren. They want them all to have big families. They want them all to have the same traditions. That's the thing. Traditions are going to destroy people. Okay? And so, and then, when you get together in diverse company, when you look at, the grandmother is weaker because she has a lot more diversity within. Obviously, she has children and grandchildren, so that genetic line is being diluted. She's also taken on microbes that cause then replication and offspring within her body. She's not releasing the demons, and if she is, the more that she's around, even her family, the more she's taken on, the less she's releasing. And if she is releasing, that's that fight between how much is she releasing, how much is she taking on, is she willing to go through the process of pain and suffering, and maybe even mitigating her taking on more offspring by being around diverse company, most likely with grandmothers and family members. They don't take a break from each other. And they don't like to do the whole back and forth through the internet. They want to be in each other's company. Well, the longer you're in diverse company, the more offspring get developed, the further behind the eight ball they become. So then the grandmothers are at a deficit, the children are at a deficit, the parents are like, or the children of the grandparents, or the parents of the children, okay, are probably the strongest, assuming they're not fighting some diagnosable condition. But when you look at 3 generations, it's the one in the middle is going to probably be the strongest, theoretically. Now, that always isn't the case. But the older you are, and if you haven't really changed your lifestyle and belief systems, you're at a deficit. When you think about that, the younger you are, you're at a deficit. So these children are at a deficit, grandparents are at a deficit, the parents have a better chance in surviving. So I would actually bank on the parents outliving the grandparents and outliving their own children on some level. Doesn't mean it's always going to happen, but that's what I would look at. But as you can see, we have a lot of people who are dying suddenly in this environment. because they are so weakened. They already had too many children. They already have predisposed issues. Their kids might survive them. The grandparents might survive, maybe, if they're still around. But will these kids survive, given what they've inherited? But if I was to be a betting person, I wouldn't bet in this environment, because this environment is so aggressive, and you don't know really where people come from and what issues they're dealing with, and you can't tell by sometimes you can tell by looking at them, but not all the time. Some people, I wouldn't have guessed that they would have passed away. I mean, I'm seeing somebody in Hollywood pass away at 58. And at 58, and he looked relatively young. But I would say looks can be deceiving. The plastic surgery and all the different creams and things, you can't tell what anybody's situations are at this point. And so I can only sit back and watch the world burn. And it sucks. So nothing I can do except to air my frustrations on Facebook. Okay? And so, again, when you think about 4 children, siblings, there's always the strongest one in the duo of 2. Like I said, the first 2 are like sharing space. The second 2 are like sharing space. If you have 3 children, the first one gets a lot of the best genetics. So as long as that time, during gestation and all that was relatively okay, then the second kid is coming up, and you're like, and that second kid is part of another duo, another alter ego. And then you have the third kid that is then kind of like a fraternal twin, not literally, but a fraternal twin when you think about it. Even though it's a year or 2 later, it was just waiting to come out. And it caused the mother to go and get it inseminated, and now the mother has 3 children. One that's the strongest, and the younger 2 are like 2 peas in a pod, but not really. Maybe they're opposing each other, maybe they're opposites. And maybe even one out of those 2 is the weaker one, has the issues. Okay? And so think about 4 children, siblings, always the strongest one in the duo of 2, second oldest, second to the largest, to the last youngest. 3 children are siblings. There's only one who is the strongest when you think about it. 2 children, siblings, only one is the strongest. Then you have the twins. And that's when I thought about the mycoplasma and the twins, like Danny DeVito and Arnold Schwarzenegger. Like, how are they twins, right? Remember, it was always with 2 scientists, because the 80s was trying to tell you there's scientists doing so many experiments. And I'm like, this is such a, how could you think that Danny DeVito and Arnold Schwarzenegger would be twins and carry that film? Why is it so funny? Because it's actually, even though it's so inane and so like, it doesn't make sense, they are like alter egos. Okay? Arnold Schwarzenegger got all the best genetics, and Danny DeVito got the worst genetics, the leftover genetics, and that's what they were trying to say, is that when you have children, there's one that's going to get the best genetics, the best of everything from the parents, and there's going to be 1 or 2 or whoever are going to get the leftovers genes. And they're going to have a hard time, they're going to be struggling, they might even have types of different issues, deficits that are more obvious, as they are growing up. And it's all relative to also the social constructs. Sometimes the strongest one out of the 2, as far as physically stronger, will die sooner because they're capitalizing on their strength, and so they're winding their clock down faster, while the other one is sitting back, chilling out. Maybe is not as strong physically, but intellectually they are stronger and smarter, and so maybe they're able to figure out how to strengthen their biological, because they have the capacity up here. And so, it's all relative to social constructs, but even then, if all of them buy into the same social constructs and don't want to change and understand how to evolve to a changing society, they all will go over the cliff together. Okay, and so the single child in this environment is anybody's guess how they will survive if they are strong enough. Single children get everything. They are surrounded, only children, as they call them, only children. They are surrounded by love and adults, so much love, they get loved to death. And of course, only children with no siblings get spoiled to death. Then you get in diverse company, you can see which one is stronger microbially, and that's the whole schoolyard. That's the gladiators. When you're out there in the schoolyard with all of your different peers, that's why they had all the different groups. Gen X was so famous for separating people into groups. The goths, the jocks, the preppies, the nerds. I mean, that was a scientific way through allegory to understand what the system was programming in people. Then you get the blood types. Blood type O is probably were the jocks. Blood type A's and B's were probably some jocks too. Skinnier, maybe they're in marathon running. And then also the academics, the musicians. Okay, so even Stranger Things was, there's a part of my childhood of hanging out with peers was missing because I didn't go all the way through high school. So then watching what they were doing, falling in love and all that, going through like these romances in high school. Was it high school sweethearts and all that? Yeah. And that's when you get all the single mothers and the young families and all that. And it's like, and that's what they train. And then you have, all these kids that are not programmed for anything except for whatever the system at the time was programming them for. And so then you get into the diverse company, you can see which one's the strongest microbially. The circle of life. Every single time you fracture a hole, it becomes weaker and weaker and weaker. And that's what families do. They fracture that persons. Oh, it's all full of love and they have their little gang or whatever, their little culture, their little familia, but it's also becoming weaker and weaker. You didn't know this because the environment was not as aggressive and the system kept treating your disease, right? And you had a longer time in between each diagnosable issue. But now we're not in the same world. The world has changed. And so there are strategies to survive this, but parents would have to face they're not in the same world as before. And I think a lot of people are in denial. And so we know when parents and grandparents are breaking ankles and breaking wrists and breaking arms and breaking hips. Can you imagine with these? So then these kids are breaking wrists, they're breaking things, breaking ankles, breaking legs. Hold on, I'll say leg, but breaking arms, breaking wrists, breaking hands. Okay, you got to see that these people are falling apart, and it happens progressively, systematically. Many kids are falling apart because their battery is going crazy in this environment. It's being winding down. It's winding down faster. Even the bigger kids are being winded down faster. So you have these bigger kids that are like balls of energy, Ricochet Rabbit, Speedy Gonzalez, and they're hard to control. And they are just ricocheting everywhere. And even their younger siblings or older siblings are like, oh my gosh. And so their older or the siblings that are not as energetic are being cannibalized by the other sibling. And so this whole weekend, my arms were so freaking sore. Like I felt like it was kind of crazy. I don't even know what the hell was in me that my body was pushing out. I don't even know where the hell it came from, but I'll say that, I could say my husband came home and all that, but maybe he influenced stuff that's already in me. And then also the environment is aggressive. We've had, crazy snowstorms. So that's on top of that. And I didn't feel like sick. I just, after leaving the DMV, I had to go to bed. But before that, I seemed to be okay. It's when I was in the DMV and I always started going a little bit, they weren't going crazy, but I just had a hard time reading those numbers. And it was just, oh my God, it's insane. Okay, so I had sore arms. And then Saturday night, pushing out that demon, oh my God. Sunday morning. It was brutal. It was like, holy shit. And I even had I would have like a rash, like a hives. There's like even red marks on my arms. It's like you feel like your arms have to get stronger in this environment. That's why they get sore. People are feeling sore shoulders and sore arms. Yeah, it's your lymph nodes. I even felt them kind of dripping out. They were a little bit open and painful on Saturday. It's because the body has to release. If I close these up with using remedies and steroids, that's when you get the growths. When you close up your body, even and putting creams and things where your body is not allowed to breathe and release and all that stuff, like creams to stop the body from expressing or stop from contracting, expand. I mean, that's when you get the growth. That's when you get the tumors. That's when you get fast moving cancers. And so when the body is developing growth that quickly, the release process must be just as quick, if not quicker. Or else you get those turbo cancers, those super growths that happen overnight. And that's happening to people. They're having these growths that come up. I mean, it's been growing in their body, but they don't realize it. It's not like they're getting CAT scans all the time. And so when they finally see the growth, because it's coming to surface, it's already too late for a lot of people because it's happening so quickly. And then their appointments to get things treated are so pushed off into the future that growth becomes astronomical. They can't get ahead of it. That's also what's in people's futures right now, is that they get tested from the emergency room. They get diagnosed, not really diagnosed, but they have to go for more testing, but they can't do it right away. It has to be done in the future because there's so many people ahead of them. During that time of when they got that that test says, okay, well, we see there's something there, but we don't know if it's cancerous or not. The biopsy is what they're looking to see if it's cancerous or not cancerous. But between that time of that diagnosis that there's a growth and when they actually get a biopsy, it could be too late. That's what people are facing as well. Okay? You got to have an immune system that has the ability to release and to gain the pressure. And so bigger people are in danger of that. There's so much growth in their body, like bigger people, so much growth in their body that one day they'll have that fast-moving cancer because there's so much diverse growth. One of those colony units will become so influential they couldn't get ahead of it. And those who are so skinny also run that issue. That's why they have to gain the pressure and fight that demon within, release the demons too, and gain the pressure to build up the army against that mycoplasma, against that opposing force. And that's not eradicating that opposing force, because then you become too lopsided. It's controlling it and making the good, the light, be a little bit stronger than the dark. And not erasing the dark, because you need that dark to give you indicators, but you need to have some kind of balance. It's not always equal. There's got to be a back and forth. I'll tell you, this weekend, I was unemotional. I'm dealing with this stuff going like, fuck. And then going like, I joined AARP, which I'll get discounts and stuff. Facing to wear glasses only when I'm driving at night. Because that's really, I don't need glasses for anything else. I can see everything. I can see from this distance. As when it's further away and it's smaller is when it's a little bit questionable. But for the most part, I can see. But having trouble at the DMV was a little bit jolting. Okay? A little bit jolting. Yeah, so anyway, the skinny people and large people need to figure some shit out. And that's going to be on your own. You're going to figure that out. And I'll tell you, I still feel bloated. I felt bloated last night. I'll feel the heat, blow my nose this morning and all that. But that's what's necessary. I'm feeling like a million bigger. I mean, but that's necessary. I would rather feel the pain of knowing that my immune system is working the way it's supposed to than not feel any pain at all. And then one day I don't wake up. Okay. That's right now in this environment. It is so dangerous not to feel anything. I know my husband feels stuff, but he's strong. I mean, when he was taken down for that week, he said he could hardly walk. His legs were just so sore. And I'm glad that happened. And I'm glad he didn't treat anything. I'm glad that I just fed him and he stayed off his feet for a certain amount of time. And then he's fine. And he's actually going to the bathroom. Like when I'm around him, like during the weekend, he goes to the restroom a few times in the morning. He poops a lot. Good. And I said, honey, every time you poop, you have to replace that with food. You got to eat food. I always make sure he's eating food. He has to eat food. You have to keep up with the level of energy in this environment. Okay? So, yeah. Anyways. And so, I'm glad I'm bigger, and I'm glad that I'm feeling the fight, because it means my immune system's working the way it's supposed to. And sometimes it's just, I think one really, I don't say crazy dream, but I had a dream this weekend. So I know I'm pushing out demons. It wasn't like as bad as it was like a week or so ago when I went last week to take care of stuff. But man, it's no joke out there. And it's going to be warm this week. So the barometric pressure is going to rise and people are going to be feeling shit again. I even had to turn my heat down. Now that my husband's on the road, I don't have to keep him warm so much. So I turned it down. Instead of 70, now it's down to 69 or 70. It was 71. Yeah, now it's down to 71 or 70. And so who's going to be the strongest willow in the wind? When you're skinny, that programming is cemented in and has no room to evolve. Gaining the pressure and fat to build an army against the demon within takes time. Do you have the time? And so watch Stranger Things. The children are all pretty skinny except for a few. Bigger people with fat and muscles would have to go through the pain of kicking out that demon in their body and pulling it out. Who's going to be the strongest willow in the wind? I'm in the battle of my life every single day. I feel it, and I'm not the only one. And so, yeah, the whole thing with clones. Your whole family is clones, just fractures, pieces of you. Okay, we're all clones to somebody or something. And so it took me 7 years of deprogramming, 7 years of reprogramming, 14 years of evolution. Okay, 14, 1 plus 4 equals 5. 5 books of Moses, 50 times redouble itself. That's a Hayflick limit. 50 AARP, right? 5 is the power number. Between now and 2030-ish, many changes will be happening. You are clones. Your clones, the strongest clones, are going to win. It's a race against time and a race of the strongest, most adaptable in your family. Who has a better chance? The strongest, most adaptable person in your family. Even your alter ego. Which one will win? Will you win or will your alter ego win? And some people don't survive their alter ego. They're too much in resistance. And so when the body's trying to push out a major demon that's taking over, and they have so many different colony-forming units in their body of opposing diversity, and they resist the body pushing out those demons, eventually the most influential demon in the body is going to take out the person. That's the mycoplasma. If you have a family, they're clones. Which one is the strongest? If you're in a nuclear family, if the parents aren't too far gone, most likely they'll be stronger than their children. The children have yet to build up a strong immune system. They are still in development. Kids are breaking bones in this environment because their body is falling apart. They're trying to keep up with the traditions they cannot afford to keep up with. Their parents are strong, but parents project. They don't realize every single time they procreate, the offspring is weaker. If grandparents are in the picture, most likely grandparents are not strong enough, for even some grandparents are falling apart. Grandparents and grandchildren are two sides of the same coin if they're both still living in the same household. Unless a parent is fighting a major diagnosable condition, and if the grandparents is extremely strong, they could even outlive their own children and grandchildren. The next 7 years is poignant, you guys. I can feel it. It's getting more aggressive. I tell you, when I was releasing those demons on Saturday morning, and it was early in the morning, I mean, if someone were to take a picture of my face when I'm trying to release those demons, it would be like a face of pain, of contortion of pain, of trying to release that demon. And the body is pushing it out. Once you activate your immune system, your lower immune system, and the body is pushing out that demon, you're like you're giving birth to yourself. It's like labor pains. I mean, not really, but kind of. You're going to push out a poop baby or you're going to push out a regular baby, and then you'll die from a regular baby at some point. Push out a poop baby, you might get a chance to live. And yeah, you'll go through a pain like that. But you also have to have the substance. I have the substance. But it's still insane to go through. And it was more insane this weekend than it ever was. I don't think I remember having to be that crazy of an energy as the body is really anxious to push out that to keep itself alive. And so that's why I was just like this weekend, like seriously unemotional. Because what else? You can't be mad. You can't even waste your time with all the bullshit out there. There is no energy for bullshit. Just saving yourself in your own fucking home because of diversity in the environment that does come to you that you can't help. And even when you're living alone, you still have to deal with the winds of change. You still have to get things delivered to you. You still have to go and take care of business. You still have to do commerce. Okay? So then you're like, how do people have time to be against Israel? How do people have time to be against Biden or Trump or for Trump? How do people have time for this shit? Oh, because they don't feel anything. They're one of the ones that are waiting to die suddenly. They're winding their clock down. They're asymptomatic. And all you can do is just watch. You can't do anything. You can't bring in a reality that's not even real for some people, right? The next 7 years is poignant. I feel it. This is when you can't pretend that you can beat the New World Order. You're going to fight against your own genetics. It's a fight between everybody and their family and friends. That's why it's imperative to understand diverse company will destroy you, especially if you're not strong enough and if you don't even know it. See, we have a lot of lambs out there. Lambs are being headed to slaughter. Lambs are completely oblivious. Lambs that go shopping at a restaurant, at a grocery store, put their purse in the seat of the car and then turn their back and do stuff, not realizing that people can go and take their stuff. People leave their keys and their wallets and everything and their phones in their car, and they wonder why someone breaks the window of their car and takes their wallet, their keys, their phone, their credit cards, whatever's in the car. Those are lambs. Completely oblivious. They live in a predatory world. They're out there in diverse company, not realizing they really can't afford to be in that. But who says they can't afford it, Jillian? They're not feeling anything. Yeah. Because you were groomed and conditioned not to feel anything. You were groomed and conditioned to feel nothing. So when the system does change, you wouldn't feel the changes. You do the same thing. And guess what? When you do the same thing in a different environment, it'll work against you and faster in this environment. And then there's a die suddenly. And so I'm not even strong enough to be in a diverse company for long periods of time because a fight is fucking astronomical. I can survive it. And I'll tell you, I do fight for my life, but who wants to be in survival mode all the time? I'll pick and choose since I'm straddling both worlds. Remember, I'm still married to Superman. My husband is the X-Men, one of the X-Men. I'm not saying he has like big wings and he's like the Wolfman, but I mean, he's strong and he feels good. So I'm still married to Superman right now. He doesn't even feel hardly a thing. If he does, he doesn't say it. He'll go through his bouts of evolution like he does every single time the season changes. And I know you don't want to think about this, but it's better to know this than be caught unaware and traumatized, right? The last 3 years brought up my predisposed issues of vision issues, like I said. And so when you turn 50, and before in this environment, Gen X knows people will either die suddenly because they are 58, 57, 43, 42, 30, 29, 15, 12. People either die suddenly because they don't feel anything, or they are one of those 2 million in the USA and the West plus who are diagnosed with cancer in 2024 because they failed to see the danger for what it is. They thought they were immune. They thought they could beat everything and everybody. Wait till your body starts falling apart and you treat disease every single time it happens. That's what's going on. People that didn't listen to indicators or listen to warnings were out there just doing whatever, didn't care about the warnings, were in resistance because we're programmed to be in resistance. They're part of that whole conspiracy world, which, yeah, some parts of it have relevance. Other parts, how far are you going to fucking take it? And now they are at home dealing with knee issues, dealing with blood thinning issues, dealing with clotting issues. Wait till your body starts falling apart and you treat disease every single time it happens. You'll just make the Sandman come quicker and people don't wake up. The next 7 years are so important. You had to taste the last 3 years of what it would be like. Some of you have a lot more substance than me. And if you change something today, you might stand a chance. And even those who are different blood types than me, blood type A and B or whatever, you have the knowledge and the capacity to understand what I'm saying. Now, how are you going to strategize building the pressure so you can gain substance to take your life back, kick out that demon, and go through that mycoplasmic struggle of wrestling the demons within. It's not out there. I mean, yeah, out there, yes, there is competition out there, but you pick and choose how much competition is going to come in and develop that war. That's why those who are blood type A and B, it would behoove you to understand this. Stay home and stay safe, but you know how that goes. So some of you are just riding the wave of being asymptomatic, and you think I'm crazy. People don't listen to warnings. They think they're above the danger, above all the danger. It's just a matter of time before that wind, before you wind that clock down. Wind, same thing. Right now it's going on in the UK. So much wind, over 100 miles an hour. I hope people in the UK are doing okay. Ireland, Scotland, North England, and even London. That's why this environment is so deceptive. You're being given enough energy. You're being given an energy you don't even know you could afford. Like a poor person who gets $1 million and spends themselves out of existence. That's what's going on right now. Skinny girls given so much energy, they spend themselves out of existence. Big burly men who think they can beat everything and everybody spend themselves out of existence. A windfall. People are falling to the wind. Every single time you had a situation, an infection, a disease, I was telling you there's something incubating inside. And when you go get it treated, that's another colony that's going to incubate and turn into something else. That's going to get converted from what was already there before. That was just a stay of execution. And it was, so when people are dealing with infection, they're getting bigger and bigger, and they're not releasing those demons. One day that infection will accelerate its appetite, and then people start losing vast amounts of weight very quickly, and then cancer develops. That's what people who are bigger are running the risk of a major aggressive cancer. Because it's already growing within, they just don't see it. It's not affecting them adversely. But once it gets on that train of it munching slowly, all right, that's what bigger obese people munching slowly, and then the environment causes replication, then that army then is even more hungry, and then the parents get eaten. And then all of a sudden, the host doesn't stand a chance. What is a windfall? An apple or another fruit blown down from a tree or bush by the wind. A piece of unexpected good fortune, typically one that involves receiving large amounts of money. Yeah. Methuselah viruses. So Methuselah was a biblical patriarch and a figure in Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. He had the longest lifespan of all those given in the Bible, having died at age 969. Okay? And so there's going to be Methuselah viruses that are in the permafrost that are going to come to surface. I have no idea what that looks like. I know people were saying that it could be like Santa Clarita diet, where they were cannibalizing. I don't go out there. I don't hang out in diverse company. I'm not in the dating world. But if there are these viruses that causes actual cannibalization, it's going to be people who are going to look for the lambs, the lowest hanging fruit. The lambs out there that are dating, desperate for company, who are out there in the public square, desperate for connection, walking at home at night in the dark, driving in areas that they're not aware of, that you never know what they could trigger. It's the lambs that will be triggering some of these pretty aggressive strategic things are going to happen out there. That's why I figure I'd stay home and stay safe, only go out during the day when you think about it, and shop with my husband or get things delivered to me. And even then, I haven't done the delivery, except for maybe, I think we did Grubhub just the other day with my husband. But yeah. Okay. There's so many things coming up on the horizon. Again, my arms feel it. So I said, yeah, a pretty rough weekend. When you look at my face, and I was looking at some of the articles about the kings from Sumer, Mesopotamia, and they have this face that kind of looks kind of weird. I'm looking at my face and it looks kind of like those faces. It looks a little bit monstrous. I don't look bad, but I know I'll look beastly during this process. I said I would rather look beastly and survive this process than look all sexual and looking like I'm selling something. No, this is survival. The sexual people that have to look hot and whatever on Facebook and whatever, and maybe they're a little bit younger, a little bit older, they're going to compromise themselves and resist evolution until they die suddenly. But no, I'll look whatever I have to look to survive. I don't care. I really don't. Okay? And so maturity doesn't have to be a death sentence. Histamine and prostaglandins. Okay, which is why I don't take antihistamine, because the histamine and prostaglandin E2 upregulate the production of Th2 attracting chemokines, which is basically like a cytokines, and downregulate IFN-Y-induced CXL10 production by immature human dendritic cells. So histamine and prostaglandins regulate the immature dendritic cells, D cells. So that way you're not overridden by immature cells that turn into cancer, disease, and chronic illness and autoimmune disorders. That's why you have to allow the histamines and the prostaglandins do its thing, the inflammation. That's why I don't treat anything. I let it release and come through all my different orifices. And I'll be bigger, yeah, because I have to have that energy conversion. Which is why immature people have more children in a slower frequency environment. So it's not a coincidence why people in their 20s, teens and 20s, maybe even their 30s, have children at that time. The system farmed them to have children at a younger age. Because they're saying people who are in their 40s and 50s, it's obviously going to harm the baby down the road because they don't have as much of the substance to give to that child. So, which is why immature people have more children in a slower frequency environment. In a slow frequency environment, younger people get pregnant more often with no regulation. People who are relatively mature have a hard time getting pregnant. People who are relatively mature have a hard time getting pregnant. Cancer is destructive. Biologically, the system views offspring as destructive if not regulated and programmed correctly. If you want to survive, you must mature but not deteriorate. You want mature cells regulating immature cells. Remember, the movies are all about children destroying everything and consuming everything. Some adults act like children because inside they have not matured. Taking a lot of remedies develops a lot of offspring, then offspring turn into cancer. And in this environment, turbo cancer because of people's practices of resisting maturity and evolution. To become mature in this world, you must release those demons, those offspring, and then the maturity comes with wisdom and longevity, if you can survive the children or the offspring. Maturity doesn't have to be a death sentence. Immature D cells facilitate tolerance towards cancer cells. Okay? Observe for many apoptic inducers. So when you have immature, when you have children, they facilitate a tolerance towards cancer cells. It means they keep procreating cancer cells. Children keep procreating. That's why I said, be not a cancer on this earth. Leave room for nature. Leave room for nature. That's the Georgia Guidestones. While fully mature DCs, dendritic cells, can strongly promote anti-cancer immunity if they secrete the correct combinations of cytokines, observed when D cells interact with cancer cells undergoing immunogenic cell death. So obviously the immature out there cause all the cancers, and the mature people are holding back, not causing destruction and replicating and procreating. They're staying home and staying safe, not out there gallivanting. And so you see who's going to win, or those who are relatively mature who can hold back their desires to procreate microbially and macrobially. All right. I'm not going to go too far. I'll just say that, yeah, the twins and all that. I'm still like dealing with shit, but all right, I'm not going to read that. Mycoplasma. Go watch the Stranger Things. Vecna. Okay. He is the judge, jury, and executioner. Stranger Things explains die suddenly and CERN in allegory. And vegans are most likely to have nutrient deficiencies and low body mass index, both of which can increase the risk of fractures and also die suddenly. But when you have disciplined yourself and conditioned yourself to starve, people will justify their own destruction. You just leave it there. You can't tell people who are vegans, who starve themselves, or anorexic. No. So, yep, and they want to know, by 2030, who's going to survive? That's why you don't have to do your driver's license for 8 years. We're going to see who survives the next 7 fucking years. This is insane. I'm just going down insane. So yeah, viruses can affect your vision. And when the viruses are more activated, especially in this last 3 years, than the things that I had to deal with, things that were told to me, like back in 1993. Oh, you have depth perception issues. Okay. If I go to the DMV, I pass with flying colors. Okay, well, whatever. Well, they were right. The military knew. The military knew. And so build back better. And so, yeah, I mean, I knew I had eye issues. I mean, I had lazy eye and all that stuff. And so I'm not trying to exercise it and make it, I'm just going to go through the process of everything else in my body going through the process. Okay. Estrogenic programming, you see it in Brooke Shields, like in me when I was younger. We were softer, in our younger years, and then that was all the estrogen, and then the testosterone, the balance finally comes in. That's why people are thinking like everyone's transgender. No, it's just called hormone programming, okay? So that's all I'm going to say. I'm not going to go into too much stuff around the politics around the border. You guys will figure it out. I'm not volunteering to fight any war. I'm staying home and staying safe. I'm not going to get, radicalized into going into harm's way. A lot of the right wing will be radicalized to go and save their country from immigration. I know illegals, but what? Okay. If they're letting them in, then are they illegal? I don't know. But whatever. And then lambs, yeah, Christians are like lambs if they don't wake up and figure some shit out. Don't let the system lobotomize you. Start feeling something, Christians, okay? Or you being lambs led to slaughter. So you are an angel run by a demon. So if possible, release the demons or else become a lamb being led to slaughter. And humans are predatory. And college can attract predators. And my mom and some influential lady in my life way back in my 20s saved my ass. I won't say how, but I'll just say this. They were right. And when you're constipated into belief, it'll be extremely hard to reach you. People are constipated in the belief. Skinny girls are. Big girls are. Someone has to release that demon. That's why it's Eve's rebellion, because she's freaking tired, and I'm tired. All right? So there you go. There's the short of the long of it, long of the short of it. I hope you survive. I hope you figure. I hope you take indicators. I just hope you survive your beliefs. Bye.